They told me to pack light. That was the first thing. A corporal stuck his head into the drying room where I was working a brush over the toe of my left boot, and he said 3 words, "Pack light, hail." Then he was gone before I could ask him what for, or where to, or for how long. I sat there with the brush still in my hand and the boot still on my knee, and I remember thinking that nothing about being a Coldstream Guard had ever been light. Not the bearskin, not the tunic, not the rifle, not the standard, none of it. I'm Daniel Hale. I had been in the regiment 2 years and 4 months when this happened, which is long enough to stop being frightened of the drill square and not nearly long enough to stop being frightened of being noticed. That is the strange thing about this job. You spend hundreds of hours making yourself perfect so that thousands of strangers can stare at you, and then you spend the whole time praying not one of them sees a single thing wrong. The next morning I was called in front of Sergeant Marcus Reed. Reed had a face like a closed door. He had served 17 years, and he had a way of looking at you that made you check your own collar without meaning to. He did not waste words. He had a folder on the desk in front of him, closed, and he kept one hand flat on top of it the whole time he spoke, like he did not trust me to see what was inside yet. "You're going abroad," he said. I waited. I had learned that with Reed, you did not fill silences. The silences were his state visit. A royal one, we send a detachment. You're in it. Where, Sergeant? He looked at me for a long moment. Doesn't matter where, he said. It matters that you understand one thing before you get on that plane. He took his hand off the folder. He did not open it. The reputation of this regiment does not stay in this country, he said. It travels with you. Every step you take out there, you take it for 370 years of men who never met you and never will. You will be a long way from home. There will be cameras. There will be people who do not want you there, and people who only want to see you fail, and people who will measure you against soldiers who have spent their whole lives in that heat while you've spent yours in the rain. None of that changes the standard. The standard never travels light. The standard never travels light. I would think about that sentence many times over the next 11 days. I did not understand it yet. I thought I did. That is usually the way of it. We flew out 2 days later. 12 of us. Sergeant Reed, a young officer called Lieutenant Owen Carrick, who could not have been more than 3 years older than me, and 10 guardsmen. We were the smallest unit I had ever been part of. Back home, the regiment moves in hundreds. You disappear into it. Out here, there were 12 of us and nowhere to disappear. Nobody told us our destination until we were in the air. A former Commonwealth nation, a coastal city, a royal who would arrive separately and whom we would never actually stand close to. Our job was the ceremonial escort, the walk, the presentation, the handover of honors between 2 honor guards, ours and theirs, in front of the host nation, and a broadcast that would reach further than I wanted to think about. I looked out of the small window at the cloud, and I tried to picture it, and could not. I had stood guard outside palaces. I had marched in the cold with my breath showing. I did not know what it meant to do this somewhere that did not know us, did not owe us anything, and might not be glad to see us at all. I closed my eyes, and I did not sleep. The heat hit me before I was off the steps of the aircraft. I want to be honest about this because it matters for everything that came after. I had been hot before. I had stood on the forecourt in July with the sun coming straight down and the tunic doing what tunics do. And I had thought, this is heat. This is the worst of it. It was not the worst of it. This was a different animal entirely. It came up off the tarmac in a wall. It got under the collar and into the lungs, and it did not let go. By the time I had carried my own kit 30 meters across the apron, my shirt was a different color than it had been at the top of the steps. Sergeant Reed did not appear to notice it at all. That was the first thing I learned about him out there. The man did not sweat where anyone could see it. I do not know how. I have thought about it since, and I still do not know. They drove us through the city to where we would be staying, which was a residence from the old days, a long pale building with deep verandas and ceiling fans that turned slowly and moved the warm air around without cooling it. The walls were thick, the windows were tall and shuttered. Everything about the place had been built by people who understood the heat far better than I did, and it still was not enough. The man who met us at the residence was a local liaison officer, polite, careful, exact. He walked us through the schedule. He used the word protocol many times. He said it the way Reed said the word standard. I noticed that. There were two flags on the wall of the room where he briefed us. Theirs and ours hung the same height, the same size. I noticed that too. I did not yet know what it meant. I assumed the way you do when you are young and far from home, that everything I did not understand was something to be wary of. Our first kit inspection was that same evening. I want to explain why this was harder than it sounds. A kit inspection back home is a known quantity. The light is the light you have always worked in. The air is the air your boots were polished in. You know how the leather will hold a shine because you have shined it 10,000 times in that exact room. None of that was true here. I had polished my boots on a plane and in a strange room with the fan moving warm air over them and the heat doing something to the surface I had never seen the heat do. The shine sat differently. The bearskin, when I put it on, felt heavier and the air inside, it felt closer, and I understood within about 4 seconds that the cap, which had been part of my body for 2 years, was now a thing I would have to fight. Lieutenant Carrick did the inspection with Reed 1 pace behind him. Carrick was young, but he had been taught well, and he had the regiment in his hands the way you have a language you were raised in. He went down the line slowly. He stopped at me longer than at the others. "Boots," he said. I looked straight ahead. "You do not look at your own boots. You know what they look like. You have to trust what they look like." "They'll come up, sir," I said. "They'll have to," Carrick said. He moved on. It was nothing. It was a sentence and a half, but Reed, behind him, did not move on as quickly. He stood in front of me for 1 extra second, and he did not say anything, and that 1 silent second told me more than the lieutenant's 2 words had. Something was already wrong, and the man whose job it was to see everything had already seen it. That night, I sat on the edge of a narrow bed under a fan that did nothing, and I worked the brush over the toe of my left boot until my arm ached, and the shine would not sit the way it sat at home. The heat had got into it. I could feel the difference under my thumb. I told myself it was the first night. I told myself I would get the measure of it. I believed about half of that. I saw their honor guard for the first time the next morning, and I have to be careful here, because what I felt was not the truth, and the gap between what I felt and the truth is most of this story. We were taken to the courtyard of the old residence for a familiarization. Their detachment was already there. They were not in their full ceremonial dress yet, just a working order, but you can tell a soldier by how he stands long before you can tell him by what he wears. And these men stood like the heat was something they had been born inside of and had simply decided not to acknowledge. They were taller than us. Not all of them, but the line of them gave that impression. Their commander was a man called Joseph Adiemi. He was older than Reed. He had grey at the temples and a stillness about him that I did not have a word for then. He did not call his men to attention with his voice. He did it with a small movement of his hand, and they moved as one, and not one of them looked at the heat the way I could feel myself looking at it. I watched them go through a sequence of drill, and I felt something settle in my stomach that I did not like. They were good. They were better than good. They were doing in that climate easily what I was struggling to do at all, and I had come a very long way in a very small group to stand next to them in front of the entire world. There was a young guard on their side near the end of the line who kept his eyes front the way you were supposed to, but who I caught twice looking at us. Looking at me, I thought. I told myself he was sizing us up. I told myself the whole detachment was that they resented 12 foreigners arriving to share their ceremony, that we were guests nobody had asked for, and that the looking was a kind of contempt that had not yet found its words. I want to say plainly that this was wrong. Every part of it was wrong, but I did not know that yet. And a man's wrong ideas feel exactly like his true ones from the inside. That is the dangerous thing about them. Sergeant Reed stood beside me watching the same drill I was watching. I expected him to say something hard about them. He did not. "Watch how the old one stands," he said quietly, meaning Adiemi. "Sergeant, he's not showing off." "He's not even watching us," Reed paused. "He's letting us see them. There's a difference." I did not understand the difference. I filed it away with the 2 flags and the word protocol and all the other things I had decided to be wary of instead of curious about. We rehearsed in the same courtyard that afternoon, the two detachments at opposite ends, not together yet, just sharing the ground. It was tense in the way a room is tense before anyone has said anything. There was no hostility I could point to. There were no words at all. There was just the heat and two sets of men who did the same job in completely different worlds, measuring the distance between them in silence. The young guard on their side caught my eye again as we marched off. He did not look away when I noticed. I looked away first. I told myself it was discipline. It was not. It was that I could not hold what I thought was in his look, and I did not yet know it was not there. The joint ceremonial rehearsal was on the fourth day, and it went wrong, and it went wrong because of me. I have gone over it many times. I have taken it apart the way you take apart a rifle, piece by piece, to understand how a thing that should work did not. And every time I come back to the same place, the heat and the boots and a quarter of a second. We formed up together for the first time, their detachment and ours in the full sequence. There is a point in the ceremony where the two honor guards present arms to each other, and the timing has to be one timing, not two close ones. One, their commander would give a word on his side, our lieutenant would give a word on ours. And between those two words there is a held breath. And in that breath, every man on both sides has to move as if a single mind is moving all of them at once. We came up to it. The host nation's people had gathered along the edge of the courtyard to watch even the rehearsal, and there were cameras, the long-lensed kind, and a few members of the local press who had not been kept as far back as I would have liked. The word came. We presented arms, and my boot betrayed me. The shine the heat had ruined was nothing. That was vanity. The real failure was lower and simpler. The leather had not been worked the way the climate needed it worked, and the sole had taken the heat off the stone of that courtyard all morning. And when I drove my heel down on the present, I felt the surface go just slightly out from under me. Not a slip. Nothing anyone watching would have called a fall, a quarter of an inch. A quarter of a second of correction that should not have been there, but a quarter of a second in a movement that is supposed to be one mind is an eternity. The man beside me felt it. The men behind felt it. The line, which is supposed to be a single thing, became, for the length of one breath, 12 separate men, and one of them was me, and I had broken it. The cameras saw it. I knew they had. You can feel a lens find you the way you can feel sun find the back of your neck. We finished the sequence. We finished it properly because that is what you are trained to do, to keep going through the thing that has already gone wrong, so that the next thing does not go wrong too. But it was done. The damage was a quarter of a second old, and it was permanent. Sergeant Reed did not wait until we were alone. That is the thing about real criticism. It does not come gently, and it does not come later. It comes the moment it is true, in front of whoever happens to be standing there. Because the standard does not care about your feelings, and the people who hold the standard cannot afford to either. Hail! I came to attention in front of him with the whole detachment within hearing, and the host nation's guard not far off, and the press behind their line with their cameras down for the moment, but their eyes up. That, Reed said, was the moment, the one moment in the entire sequence where both nations move as one. And you made 12 men into 11 and a problem. Sergeant, I don't want to hear it was the boots. He had not raised his voice. He never did. The not raising of it was the worst part. It was the boots because you let it be the boots. You had 4 days. You had a brush and you had time, and you had every warning a man could have, and you decided it would come up on its own. He let that sit. Nothing comes up on its own. Not here, not ever. He looked past me briefly at the cameras and then back. They flew us across the world, he said, more quietly, so it was almost only for me to be the best thing on that ground. Not a good thing, the best thing. And today, you were not even the second best. He stepped back. Sort the boots, sort yourself. You don't get the rehearsal back. I stood there after he had moved on, and I felt the heat on the back of my neck, and I felt worse than the heat. The certainty that the young guard on their side had seen all of it. The slip and the words after. I did not look to check. I did not have to. I had decided in my own head, with no evidence at all, what was on his face. I thought we had come all this way to be humiliated, and that I had been the one who made it happen, and that the men who had watched us from the other end of the courtyard had got exactly what they had been waiting for. I was wrong about almost every part of that. But that night I believed all of it, and I worked the brush over both boots until 2 in the morning under a fan that did nothing, and I did not sleep again. The stakes did not stay where they were. They never do. That is the formula of a thing like this, though I did not know to call it a formula then. Whatever you have failed at small, you will be asked to do again larger with more people watching and a shorter clock. The actual state ceremony was in 3 days. 3 days. And then a broadcast that would not stop at the edge of that courtyard, or the edge of that city, or the edge of that country. The royal arrival, the inspection, the presentation between the 2 honor guards, all of it carried out where Commander Adeyemi's entire nation would see it, and a good part of mine, and the gap between those 2 timings would either be a held breath or a wound, and everyone would know which. I reached my lowest point on the second of those 3 days. I had sorted the boots. I had worked the leather the way I should have worked it from the start, slowly, with patience for the climate instead of resentment of it. And they were right now, or close to right, and it had not made me feel better, because the boots had never really been the thing. The thing was that I had come to a place I did not understand, and decided every single day that the not understanding was a threat. The heat was an enemy. The other guard was an enemy. The cameras were an enemy. The protocol was an enemy. I had built a war out of a state visit, and I had been losing it alone in my own head while 12 other men got on with the job. I was sitting on the steps of the veranda in the worst of the afternoon, where I should not have been when the young guard from their detachment crossed the courtyard toward me. I stood up. You do not sit when another soldier comes to you, not even one whose language you do not share well, not even one you have decided is your enemy. He was about my age, close to it. He stopped a respectful distance away, and he did something I had not expected at all. He held out his hand, palm up, and on it was a small tin. I knew the tin. It was the kind we all carry, boot wax, but not ours, theirs. A different make, a different smell when he opened it, darker, heavier, made for that leather in that heat by people who had been making it for that leather in that heat for a very long time. He said a few words. His English was careful and not large. He said the name of the wax. He said, "For the sun." He mimed with 2 fingers, the slow working of it into the toe. Then he said one more thing, and he had clearly worked out how to say it before he came over, because it came out whole. "We watched you," he said, "to learn." Then he put the tin in my hand and he went back across the courtyard, the way he had come, and he did not look back, and I stood there holding it. We watched you to learn. Not to judge, not to wait for the fall, to learn. Every look I had caught and called contempt, every silence I had filled with hostility, the whole detachment standing easy in the heat while we struggled, which I had read as them enjoying it, none of it had been what I built it into. They had been studying us the way you study something you respect. The way Reed had told me on the first morning that Adeyemi was not showing off but letting us see them. The way I had filed away as a thing to be wary of instead of the truth it actually was. I sat back down on the steps I should not have been sitting on, with another nation's boot wax in my hand. And for the first time in 11 days, I felt the heat without fighting it. The morning of the ceremony came up white and already hot by 6. We formed up in full dress in the courtyard of the old residence and then moved to the ground where it would happen, a long parade square in front of the colonial-era government house, with the host nation's people pressed along every edge of it, deeper than I had ever seen a crowd held, and the broadcast positions set and lit, and their detachment on one side and ours on the other, and a strip of bare stone between us that the entire ceremony would be built on closing. Lieutenant Carrick walked our line one last time. He stopped in front of me. He looked at the boots. He did not say they would have to come up. He did not say anything. He moved on, and the not saying anything was, in its way, the kindest thing anyone had said to me the whole trip. Reed gave us nothing soft either. He stood in front of all 12 of us and he said one thing. "Whatever the heat does to you today," he said, "it is doing to them too. The difference between the 2 of you is not the heat. It never was. It is what you decide to do while it's happening." He looked at me when he said it, only for a second. He did not need longer. The standard never travels light. "Carry it." Then we went to it. I will tell you about the heat, because the heat is the truth of that day. By the time the royal arrival was complete and the inspection began, the stone of that square was throwing the sun back up at us as hard as the sun was coming down, and the bearskin had become, again, a thing I had to fight, and the air inside the tunic was the air of a closed room, and a man 2 down the line from me swayed, just slightly, and corrected himself and held. We came up to the moment, the one moment, the present of arms between 2 honor guards, where both timings have to become one timing, where Adeyemi's word on his side and Carrick's word on ours have a held breath between them, and in that breath every man on that square has to move as if one mind is moving all of them. I felt the stone under my boots. I felt the heat of it come through the soul the way it had on the 4th day, the day I had broken the line. And I want to tell you that the wax that young guard had given me, worked into the leather for 2 nights the way he had shown me with 2 fingers, had made the boot grip where it would have slipped. That is true, it did. But that is not the part that mattered. The part that mattered was that when the heat came up through the soul, I did not fight it. I did not brace against the ground like it was an enemy that wanted me down. I let the heel find the stone the way the stone was, hot and certain, and not going anywhere. And I trusted it the way I should have trusted it from the first day. And I moved. The word came on their side, the breath. The word came on ours, and the line held, both lines, one line. 12 men, and however many of theirs. And the heat doing to them exactly what it was doing to me, and not 1/4 of 1 second between any of us, one mind. The thing it is supposed to be and almost never is and was for the length of one breath, on that white square in front of all of them. I have stood on a lot of parades since. I have not had another moment quite like that one. I do not expect to. When the presentation was complete, in the part of the ceremony where the 2 detachments hold and the honors pass between them, there is a salute. Their commander to our officer, our line to their line. I had thought of it in all the days before as a formality. A thing in the schedule the careful liaison officer had said the word protocol about. It was not a formality. I understand that now, and I did not then. When their line and our line came to the salute, I was facing the young guard who had crossed the courtyard with the tin in his hand. He was directly opposite me. We saluted at the same moment, the 2 of us part of the 2 lines, and it was not one nation acknowledging another's hospitality, and it was not guests thanking hosts. It was 2 men who did the same impossible job in 2 different worlds, who had each spent days watching the other and getting the other wrong, and slowly getting the other right, saluting across a strip of hot stone as exactly equal. Not the visitors and the visited, equal. The salute said it more clearly than any word in either of our languages could have. I held it. So did he. Neither of us was the one who broke it early. There was no early. There was just the one timing again, the held breath. And then it was done, and it had been done as well as I have ever done anything. Commander Adeyemi spoke to me once, only once. It was after, when the broadcast positions had gone dark, and the crowd was being let off the edges of the square, and the heat had not lessened at all, but no longer seemed to be the point of anything. He came down our line, with Reed beside him, the 2 old soldiers walking the way old soldiers walk, slowly saying little, having said most of what they had to say to men over the course of their lives already. He stopped in front of me. Up close he was older than I had thought, and his stillness was not a trick of distance. It was simply how he was. He looked at the boots. Of course he looked at the boots. They always do. Then he looked at me, and he said one sentence, in English, slowly, the way the young guard had said his, like he had decided on it before he reached me. "You came here," Adeyemi said, "thinking you were being watched." He let that sit, the way Reed let things sit. "You were being learned from," he said. "There is a difference. It took you the whole visit to find it. Most men never do." Then he moved on down the line with Reed, and he did not say anything else, and he did not need to, because that was the whole thing. That was 11 days in one sentence, and he had it ready before he got to me. We flew home 2 days later. 12 of us, the same 12, in the same small aircraft, and I sat by the same small window and watched the cloud the way I had watched it coming out, and I thought about the difference between being watched and being learned from, and about how I had spent almost the entire trip on the wrong side of it. I had decided on the first day that everything I did not understand was a threat. The heat, the other guard, the cameras, the looks I caught and could not hold. I had built every one of them into an enemy, and I had been at war alone in my own head. In a place where no one had actually declared one, the host nation had not resented us. The young guard had not been waiting for me to fall. They had been doing what good soldiers do when they meet other good soldiers, which is watch closely and learn, and that close attention had felt like judgment only because I did not yet know the difference. That is the thing I carried home, heavier than the bearskin and the tunic and the rifle and lighter than all of them at the same time. Being watched is not the same as being judged. Sometimes the people who study you most closely are not waiting for you to be less than you are. Sometimes the closest attention a person can give you is the highest respect they have, and the only thing standing between you and knowing that is the war you have decided to fight on the inside, where no one else is even fighting. Sergeant Reed had told me on the first morning that the Standard never travels light. I had thought, the way you do when you are young, that he meant the boots and the bearskin and the 370 years of men who never met me. He did mean those, but I think he also meant this, that the hardest thing you carry abroad is not the kit. It is the willingness to be seen by people you do not understand without deciding, before you have any reason to, that the seeing means harm, that you have to set the war down, that the war was never theirs. It was always only ever yours, and the courtyard was never the front line, and the heat was never the enemy, and the man across the hot stone with the tin in his hand had crossed it not to defeat you, but to help your boot grip the ground. I still have the tin. It is empty now. I have never thrown it away, and I do not think I will. The Standard never travels light. But the thing I set down on that square, in the heat, in front of all of them, the thing I should have set down on the first day, and did not, that was the heaviest thing I had brought.